Thanks for listening to this podcast of Trending with Timmerie from the Relevant Radio app. Anything you share in terms of episodes, whether it's texting it to a friend, posting on social media, helps to build up the kingdom for God, to help confront the challenging issues we face as a culture, but with joy, with hope, and with an eternal perspective where our faith collides with everyday life, bringing eternal principles to help us live our life joyfully.
Talk radio for Catholic life.
Powered by you.
Listener supported.
Welcome to the Relevant Radio Spring Pledge Drive. Give hope.
Welcome to our weekly happy hour on Trending with Timmerie. Thank you for joining me. It is happy hour, and we are joined by a life coach. He works with Integrity Restored. He's the executive director, and he's going to answer your questions. I want to ask you a question. What's getting in the way of your happiness? How can we help you? We'll give you a Catholic perspective, concrete steps to grow. The number's 1-877-291-0123. What's getting in the way of your happiness? Let's kick off the hour. Join me in praying for an end to abortion here in the United States and for our needs to be met during our pledge drive. We'll kick off praying the Memorare together in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thy intercession was left unaided. Inspired with this confidence, I fly unto thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my Mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand, sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. I'm Timmerie. You're listening to Trending with Timmerie. It's our weekly happy hour. If you've never joined us before, we talk about what's getting in the way of happiness, how to be happier, and the only way to do it is with God. And that's why we'll discuss recent study that has come out indicating only about 1 in 10 people say they're very happy. And I'll tell you what these people think about life, what's different, what their perspectives are. We're also going to talk about how to enjoy your marriage again and go beyond the daily grind with Jim O'Day, the executive director of Integrity Restored. For the first time, I think about a week ago, I was talking to someone. They asked, "How are you doing?" And I said, "We're doing good. It's a daily grind. I'm embracing that. That's a new way of life, 2 kids, and, things get busier, more intense and quick." And I was talking to Jim O'Day about that, and he said, that's exactly where most people are at. Now, some of the most common questions I receive from people who are struggling in their marriages and their lives, they're usually married anywhere between about 3 and 12 years and have about 2-3 kids at least by then, and they're starting to kind of find that rut in marriage where it's a daily grind and maybe they're missing the enjoyment. So to bring a little levity back to your marriage, how to enjoy marriage again, joining me today is Jim O'Day. He's a life coach as well as the executive director of Integrity Restored. If you have a question for him today, the number's 1-877-291-0123. Jim, welcome back to Trending.
Hey, Timmerie, great to be on with you again.
Okay, so let's talk about getting past that rut of the daily grind. What needs to change in marriage, and what are you finding is lost after, a handful of years into marriage and people get busy and distracted from each other?
Well, I think one of the first things that happens is we kind of forget maybe even why we got married. And you say, well, I know I love her or I love him. But of course you do, and that was part of why you got married. But another big part of why you got married is you enjoyed each other's company. You enjoyed spending time with each other, discussing everything. And I was on a podcast a few weeks ago, Timmerie, and this topic of dreaming together came up. And it really struck me that as young couples, when we're courting each other and when we're engaged and preparing for the marriage, all we're doing together is dreaming and, thinking about what our family is going to look like, what our home is going to look like, where we're going to live, what we're going to do. We're talking about that stuff all the time, and then we get married. And then you're angry at your spouse because he didn't put out the garbage. Or you get ticked off at your wife because she didn't put the cap on the toothpaste. We kind of get into this rut of a task-oriented day. And some of that's normal. You're having kids, you're working, you got things to do. I get it. But we stop dreaming. And I think that's a big part of the problem.
It's interesting you mentioned that because you and I were talking about this last week, and I was thinking about how true that is in some ways. We just bought a new house, and there are plenty of renovations that need to be done to the house one day. And my husband's a little bit more of a dreamer. Like, this would be so exciting. We could do this to our kitchen and this to our bathroom. And he's just dreaming. He's having fun talking about it. And then and maybe, the roles are reversed. There's the pessimist and practical side of me of, well, that's a long ways away. Or, okay, how much would this cost? Versus he's just having fun. Like, wouldn't this be neat to have the kitchen look like this? Wouldn't it be neat to be able to stand in the kitchen and look out in this direction? Even if it's not today, to be able to visualize and enjoy thinking about that. And I think that often, Jim, one spouse maybe tends to dream a little bit more. That's part of their character, a part of who they are. And the other might just be too practical sometimes and be the Debbie Downer in certain events.
Speaking from experience there, Timmerie?
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah.
No, I get it. There's a balance between. One of the things I tell couples all the time when I'm working with them in recovery from porn addiction is you need to start asking each other questions. And those questions can be, as simple as, what do we want our life to look like 5 years from now? Or 10 years from now? Or at the end of our life? What do we want it to look like? And when you start dreaming in those bigger time blocks, then your husband talking about how the kitchen could look, well, that's not as scary to you. Because it doesn't mean you're going to be spending all this money tomorrow.
Right.
Or taking out loans or whatever. So when you're as a couple dreaming together, kind of make it be a little far out on the horizon.
And that's okay, right? Like giving yourself permission to say, that's not today, that's not tomorrow, that's a year from now, that's 2 years from now. It could even turn into not just a dream, but a goal you're working toward. Would you say that's part of what happens when you say, marriages start to get too busy and task-oriented and just kind of that daily grind? Is it that we're no longer dreaming together, or that we're also no longer dreaming and working toward goals together? We've lost sight of that common vision.
I think it's really, really important because when you have that common vision, one of the things that happens as a couple is you live intentionally towards that vision. And that defines what's really important to you as a couple. When we don't have those conversations, when we don't have those dreams or goals, then what becomes important to you as a couple tends to be the immediate. And that's all the little things. And those little things can build up as real annoyances with your spouse over time. And so I think we need to really look at these goals and these dreams as the definition of who we are together. And thinking about what we can accomplish together is really exciting for the relationship. It's really energizing for the relationship. And interestingly, just like with recovery, we can't do it alone. The things you can do together as a couple is far greater than the things you can do individually.
I keep thinking of Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, and we were talking about how important it is to dream together as a couple and having that same vision. Aristotle talks about types of friendships that just flop and aren't good for us, and types of friendships that are the ideal, the more perfect. And he talks about the friendship of virtue. And when he talks about the friendship of virtue, you really can only have, one, maybe two friends in this type, and it commonly ends up being the person you marry. And when he discusses that friendship of virtue, Jim, he discusses how important it is that there's that common vision, that common viewpoint. And even St. John of the Cross and many of the great theologians and spiritual directors at the time have spoken of that common joint mission, that viewpoint, that perspective on life. And I think part of that is the dream alongside that vision that's being cast and continuing to be fought for of, okay, this is why the day-to-day can be a little challenging, but this is what we're working toward. This is what is so important.
Yeah. Amen. Absolutely. That was a great way to encapsulate why this is so critical for a couple. You know, especially when we have kids at home. As a married couple, so much of our energy and attention and time is taken up by raising children. And that's a good thing. And it's really important. But you also need to spend that time dreaming together as a couple, because as somebody who's experienced it, I can tell you, the kids grow up. And then it's you and your spouse. And if you don't have those dreams, if you aren't able to have those conversations, if you can't agree upon mutual goals, it can be a real transition for the relationship when you're an empty nester.
So regaining that, maybe you can throw some practical ways to do this out for those who are saying, I don't even know what that looks like anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, it's all about communication. That's one of the most important things. And you have to do this intentionally. You know, I saw a funny thing on social media the other day, and it popped into my head just now. Stressed spelled backwards is dessert.
Interesting.
So in your relationship, particularly as a young couple, raising a family, building a career, doing all that, there's a lot of stress. So once a month, once a week, twice a month, whatever, take your wife out for dessert and make that your dream time.
It's a great
Little
date night.
things
Yeah, simpler than actually buying dinner, too.
Right. Little things like that we do. Here's the important thing. You want to keep that cycle of communication and the excitement and the possibilities going. And whether you achieve those things quickly or over decades or maybe even never, doesn't really matter as long as you keep that going. So be intentional in communicating with each other about those dreams and use that opportunity when you're feeling stressed, which is going to happen, to have some dessert.
I love that. Very, very practical. And I'll just throw out a couple other ones. You know, maybe you really want to go on a vacation. You say, okay, this year we'll do some staycations. We're going to schedule those 3 or 4 day weekends, a couple peppered in throughout the summer this year. That's what we're doing. But 2024, we're going to go on a vacation. Let's talk about where we want to go. Let's start figuring out ways we can save money together. You know, it becomes a project. You get then suddenly why you're not buying a single thing on Amazon for 2 months or whatever that might be. You have a vision, you have a goal. And that's that whole idea of having fun. I love what you said, Jim. Stress spelt backward is dessert. So go and have dessert once a week. I think that's a lot of fun. You're listening to Trending with Timmerie here on Relevant Radio. That's Jim O'Day, the Executive Director of Integrity Restored. He's also a life coach. Integrity Restored helps people who are struggling to reclaim their sexual identity in the midst of an overly sexualized and sex-addicted culture. If you have a question about happiness, what's getting in the way of your happiness, I'd love to hear from you. You can give me a call. The number is 888-914-9149. Jim would love to take your question, practical tips to grow as a person and be happier. We'll be right back taking your questions. Again, that number is 888-914-9149, or you can ask now on social media. Just follow me at Timmerie, Timmerie, and we will share your question.
Hi, this is Father Rocky, and I want to thank you for listening to Relevant Radio. Welcome to our Give Hope Spring Pledge Drive. This is a reminder that Relevant Radio is listener-supported. That's you. So we're unable to bring you the Patrick Madrid Show or the Drew Mariani Show or even the Family Rosary Across America without your financial support. We do need your help. Today only, for a gift of $20 a month, our special thank you gift is a Relevant Radio Divine Mercy Carrier. This velvet pouch is printed with the Divine Mercy image with a quote from St. Faustina's diary on the back. You can hang it on a bedpost or a doorknob, and it can hold your book of prayers or a similar sized small book. Take a look for yourself at relevantradio.com or on the app. It's only available today, and it's yours for a gift of $20 a month to Relevant Radio. And we have a $1 for $1 match this hour, so give online now on the Relevant Radio app or at relevantradio.com.
I'm very relieved because last hour, Cale Clark said, he outed me and said I do vocal warm-ups each hour. And he said, if someone gives $10,000, will you do your vocal warm-ups for everyone? Well, no one's given $10,000 yet, but if they do, I will still consider it.
Okay.
So we need $16,000 this hour, Cale. The easiest way to donate is online, relevantradio.com. You can also call us, 1-877-291-0123. And if you're listening on the Relevant Radio app, well, if you aren't, you should be. And if you are, you can tap that button right there and donate now. And Cale, I love talking about marriage here on Relevant Radio, on Trending, because it's real. We are struggling in our marriages. The day-to-day grind can become difficult. You and I hear from people married 2, 3, 13 years where things start to get really tough. And we need those practical tips to grow in our marriages. And I love that that's what Jim O'Day and our other guests here on Trending help us to do, to practically grow and take concrete steps in order to do so.
Absolutely. And if you want to support this kind of life-changing programming on Relevant Radio, you just got to call this number, 877-291-0123. Every dollar that you give is matched 100%. It's a partnership challenge hour. It's easy, it's secure, and really probably a lot faster to go to relevantradio.com and the Relevant Radio app. You can also give that way and see all of our Pledge Drive premiums. And I just love listening to Jim O'Day, Timmerie, and how he was talking about, hey, if you don't have goals in your marriage, you're going to be focused all the time on the immediate, on all the little things in front of you. And so what's interesting is that we have both things, in our Pledge Drive. We've got a big goal. We've got to raise $3 million this week. But the only way that's going to happen is if we take care of what's in front of us. It's every single person chipping in. Like, for example, we have so many people who've called in. Bibi, or maybe it's pronounced baby. I don't know. But she said, "Oh baby, I want to, oh baby, I want to donate to Relevant Radio." So she did $30. That becomes $60. So thank you, Bibi in Montana. Yes, thank you so much. That's awesome. Hey, we've got a recurring gift. Bill in Coppell, Texas is given $240. He's coming at that $20 a month level. That becomes $480. Plus, he gets the Divine Mercy pouch, a new donor, a recurring gift, and those help us so much. If you can make those monthly recurring gifts, helps us to keep the lights on at Relevant Radio. 877-291-0123, the Relevant Radio app, and relevantradio.com. Timmerie?
10 people have stepped up this hour. We've raised $1,800. We're working our way toward that $16,000 goal. So we need about $14,000 this hour. If you can donate, 1-877-291-0123. That's another donation from Rosa and another one from Guadalupe. Thank you for supporting us here at Relevant Radio. Donate relevantradio.com. That's the easiest way to give, and give now.
You're listening to Trending with Timmerie, where you can discuss what matters most to you. Join the conversation, 888-914-9149.
Welcome back to Trending. It's your hour, weekly happy hour. We're taking your questions. What's getting in the way of your happiness? The number's 1-888-914-9149. Okay. Vacation Learning on Instagram said negative people are getting in the way of her happiness. So Jim O'Day, the executive director of Integrity Restored and a life coach, is joining us today to answer your questions. Jim, how do you work on no longer letting negative people get in the way of your happiness?
That's a tough one, because sometimes in life we're surrounded by negativity and it can be a real drag. But here's the thing we have to remember. Our happiness, and more importantly, our joy, is our responsibility. And so when those negative people keep coming at you, tune them out. Dream yourself. What is your dream? What is your goal? What are you working towards? And stay focused on that, and don't let the outside influences bring you down. Easier said than done, but it's interesting. When we practice that, we become successful at it.
Amen. I'll just throw in there, St. Augustine said, "My soul's restless until it rests in you, O Lord." It's a paraphrase of something he said. It's always stood with me so fundamentally. If we are looking for other things to quench our discomfort, to help us overcome that negativity, those negative people, we are never going to be able to withstand negative people. So start your day in prayer. if you are not starting your day in prayer, really taking the time to pray, and I know I get it, it's hard. I'm a mom of 2 now, and they wake me up very, very early, and I'm trying to wake up before them so that I can pray before I get to them, so that even, things such as crying, you're more able to withstand things that happen in your day that aren't the chipperest and most positive things that can happen. More questions coming in. If you have a question, 888-914-9149 is the number. Jim, another question or comment, Marza Karen commented. She said the desire for unhealthy food and soda is what's getting in the way of her happiness. What tips do you have for her?
That's a lifestyle change, right? That's habit changing. And so you need to know that that's not going to happen overnight. But one of the things I've found really, really helpful when I've had to make changes like that, even in my life, major habits, is putting little notes in places, little sticky notes. What do they call those things, Timmery? The little yellow ones.
Post-its.
Post-it notes. Thank you. Little post-it notes. And so you put them on your mirror, so they're the first thing you see in the morning when you brush your teeth. That you put them on the fridge. No soda until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That could be your first goal. Don't eat bonbons, have some celery. Little notes like that to remind you, because you got to bring it back to that frontal part of your brain, the thinking part. So you're just not going by habit. You're actually thinking about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. I'll throw some quick ones in there. If you're desiring unhealthy foods and soda, sugar breeds on sugar. And if you're eating sugar, you'll want more sugar. So work on cutting out sugar and change what's in your fridge. I know that sounds easier said than done, but if you do this, you cut out the sugar, you have good foods available, even snacking foods that are healthy, and then you incorporate more fat, healthy avocado oil, cover your food in olive oil. It actually helps change your appetite. And if you set that alarm for every 2 hours and actually eat every 2 hours with a cap at the end of the day, well, you're not going to be reaching for food because you're desiring it and needing it. You're actually going to be satiated in the right way. So those are just some practical tips that can also help reset your metabolism if you're eating the right foods every couple hours. You're listening to Trending with Timmery here on Relevant Radio. My guest today is Jim O'Day, the Executive Director of Integrity Restore. He's also a life coach, always helping with candid and practical advice to grow in your life. Jim, Blessed Sheesh is asking on Instagram, is there any advice if parents don't approve of your relationship?
There's a lot to that question, so I'm not sure. I think the advice would be keep open dialogue with your parents. And I hope the parents are doing the same. As parents, our number one job is to love our children. And right there with that is to get them to heaven. So that can be a really challenging place for parents, depending on the lifestyle choices their kids are making. And so I think open dialogue is really important.
Ask them why. And if you don't understand why, don't hesitate to ask questions to keep that open dialogue. I like that. But maybe ask yourself why they have a negative view of that person. Do you trust your parents? Do you love your parents? Do you have a good relationship with your parents? I think all of that should help you understand whether or not their input is very, very, very valuable, or maybe there's a perspective that's different from yours. But usually, that's a good sign to dig a little deeper in that experience and take it to prayer. Take it to prayer. I think that's a really, really important question. Okay, there's a question coming in about intimacy that we'll have to save for the next couple minutes here. But Jim, I really think that question about relationships that comes up so often, people are going, who am I going to marry? If someone has, I think, often a negative viewpoint of the person you're dating, they often don't share their perspective. And so when someone does say, hey, I don't really like this person for you, that's a really good opportunity often to pause and really ponder and take that question seriously and ask why. Maybe even write it down on paper. I don't think we do that enough today. That's Jim O'Day, the Executive Director of Integrity Restored. If you're struggling with porn addiction, check them out. IntegrityRestored.org is the website. We'll be right back taking your questions. 888-914-9149. I'm joined by Cale Clark today. We're asking you to support the work we're doing here at Relevant Radio. If you'd like to give, 877-291 0123 is that number. We need $16,000 this hour. We're asking you to step up and support the fact that you're getting candid Catholic advice from a Catholic perspective on those difficult day-to-day issues, Cale.
Absolutely. I want to thank Jerry in Inglewood, California, your home state, Timmery. He's just come in at the $300 giving level. It's an online gift.
Praise
Thank you so
God.
much to
Thank you,
relevantradio.com or the Relevant Radio app. I'm not sure, but both are considered online. And when you give online, you're going to get a very special talk from Monsignor James Shea on Mary. It's perfect for this month of Mary. If you give online, you can get that relevantradio.com, the Relevant Radio app, or you can call 877-291-0123, asking you to help us give hope this spring. I want to thank Christoph in Peoria, Arizona. He also gave $300. That becomes $600 because, Timmery, this is a matching hour. And I have to ask you this as well. Is that your personal, is that a sound effect or is it a real cowbell?
Oh, that's a good question. I love cowbells.
Is it
You
real?
don't have a cowbell at home? You don't have one?
Well, Will Ferrell always said more cowbell, right? We need that. We need that. So every time
Honey,
Timmery
it's time
rings
for
that
dinner.
cowbell, yeah, I could use that in my house. It's chow time. And hey, we want to ring that bell to kind of give us all a wake-up call. You've got to call this number, 877-291-0123. We're having way too much fun here on Trending with Timmery. Go to relevantradio.com, the Relevant Radio app, and you can give right now. We got to get to $16,000. We're just a little over 3, so we can still make it. There is still time, but you've got to pick up the phone right now, 877-291-0123, or the Relevant Radio app, Timmery.
We have $13,000 to go in half an hour. We're at that halfway mark. We've raised $3,000. We need $13,000 more. If you can make a large donation, maybe you can donate those $13,000. I know Cale might try to pressure me to give some vocal warm-up lessons over here. Maybe we will. But if you can give $10 today, I've been there. I get that. When I go to some of these fundraisers, I want to support the great work of these programs, but I can't necessarily give as much as I would like. But don't let that keep you from giving. relevantradio.com, whatever it might be. Maybe you still have a little bit left over from your taxes that came in and you haven't spent it yet. Maybe you say, I'm not going to shop on Amazon this week. I'll make a $30 donation to Relevant Radio. Whatever you can give, we are so grateful. Kayla, how can people give?
By calling 877-291-0123 or going on the Relevant Radio app or relevantradio.com. Give now. It's an investment in eternity. 877-291-0123.
Listener supported.
Bringing Christ to the world through the media.
This is the Relevant Radio Spring Pledge Drive. Give hope.
So many questions coming in today. It's our weekly happy hour. If you have a question, the number is 888-914-9149. Cassandra's on the line from California. Cassandra, what's getting in the way of your happiness? What question do you have for Jim O'Day, the Executive Director of Integrity Restored?
Yes, so my question is with regards to finances. As a current single, how to prepare if previously in our families we haven't been taught how to properly finance, or even that getting in the way of potentially being open to marriage or dating, just because we don't know exactly where to begin and how to be good stewards of our finances.
Oh, Cassandra, that's a great question. Jim, where do you start if you haven't had good, financial guidance and you're getting ready to get married?
Oh, that is such a good question. And Cassandra, thank you for thinking of it before you get married. Mm-hmm. Because finances can become such a big issue once you are married. So God bless you for that. That's fantastic. There's so many different resources out there. One of the things I'd recommend if you guys belong to a credit union, or if you don't belong to a credit union, look at a credit union. They tend to be much more customer oriented, and many of them have programs to learn about finance and how to set up a budget for your home and how to set aside savings and things like vacation clubs that Timmery needs to do so that she can go on vacation in 2024. That's one way. The other way is online. There's a lot of really, really good resources out there of online programs. Some of them are free. Some of them you pay to be part of. That's your decision. But you really can learn about personal finance. And I would say you guys should do it together as a couple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll recommend a resource. It's a couple of guests of ours, Jonathan and Amanda Texera, they have a website called walletwin.com, Cassandra. It's walletwin.com. I'm going to post a link to a couple of the episodes where they've been on, and we've talked about specifically, how to have a budget and all those important things, because I would say the baseline is you got to have a budget. You got to start living by your budget separately before you come together, and then start planning what that budget's going to look like together. And I think that's really important. A lot of people don't have a budget. Most people today live paycheck to paycheck, even people who are higher earners. And so it's important that you're starting to live below your means. I think this is a very strong Catholic principle, living not just within our means, but below our means, so that we have the ability to donate when we can, so that we have the ability to meet those emergency moments. And that's hard to do. That might mean that you're spending nothing extra for the month. That might mean you're skimping on groceries. That might mean you're not driving as much this month. And these are things that, we look at in our budget that we're trying to be really careful to do. And I think that if you start thinking about it before you're married, it's going to really help to be on the same page later on as well. But that website link is walletwin.com. And again, we're posting links to some of the episodes where we talked about how to start a budget, how to stop living paycheck to paycheck, because I know money gets in the way for a lot of people in their marriages. It can be a leading cause of tension and stress and anxiety. More questions coming in today. Jim O'Day is the executive director of Integrity Restored, joining me now. Jim, here's a question from Jen Garcia on Instagram. What suggestions do you have on how to connect to your spouse with emotional intimacy?
Well, that is an awesome question. The emotional intimacy is one of the most important things that we can have in a marriage and a relationship. But emotional intimacy happens because of a lot of other little things. It really all comes down to communication. And so when you start each day intentionally communicating with each other at the breakfast table, then the whole day continues that communication. Sometimes people are built differently when it comes to emotional connection and sharing. So you have to find out what works for you guys. But one of the things I would say is at least once a week, make sure you have a set time to step away, be quiet, and just talk to each other about what's on your heart. If you can do it every day, even better. I recommend to couples to do what I call highs and lows. Other people call roses and thorns. But at the end of each day, just 15 minutes, you share the highlight of your day and you share the most difficult part of your day. And you don't try and solve the problem for each other. You just share it.
And actually,
and that really does.
Yeah, to testify to that, Jim, my husband and I did this for a year and a half straight. It recently fell off of our nightly routine. We're going to have to pick that back up because it's very beneficial. It helps you to know where the other person is at.
Yeah.
And I love you emphasizing not everyone's the same. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
So I have a fundraising idea. I'm going to throw it out there for you. If somebody gives you $10,000, Timmerie, right now while we are on the phone together, you and I will do a custom video for them. Together, we'll be there, we'll record it, we'll do it for them, we'll address them by name. We can even address their cat by name if that makes them happy. Whatever topic they want us to talk about, we'll talk about. What do you think?
We'll do it. Support us here at Relevant Radio. RelevantRadio.com is the easiest way to give. The number is 877-291-0123 to support our work we're doing here at Relevant Radio. But any question you have, we'll go ahead and put together that video. We're happy to answer that question. We're actually going to be together in person this summer as well, Jim. We're really excited for that support.
I am really excited about that.
Yeah,
up in the mountains in beautiful California. It's going to be an awesome time.
Yes, pro-life training leadership program for youth. It's so important. And they have questions like these, Jim. I mean, it's fascinating to see where the youth are today and to answer those questions that they're really struggling through. You know, it's very, I think, connected to the culture that's overly sexualized today, overly digitalized, and to see where they're at and how they're really grappling with these conversations, engaging their peers is phenomenal. So that program's Vox Vitae. You can learn more and even send your kid from across the country. It's a sleepaway leadership training program. VoxVitae.org is that resource. You're listening to Trending with Timmerie. My guest today has been Jim O'Day, the Executive Director of Integrity Restored. Jim, thank you so much for joining us, supporting the work we're doing here at Relevant Radio, and for being a part of the team. If you'd like to learn more about the work that Jim's doing, you can head over to integrityrestored.org. That's integrityrestored.org. We've also shared that on social media as well. Another question came in, Jim. Carl from Tampa, Florida. Carl, welcome to Trending. What's your question today?
Call, long-time listener, first-time calling. I was just talking to the young man about the situation of not being happy. I'm a very lucky man. I have a great wife, married 30 years. I got a good job. Kids are fine. Finances are great, no issues. But it's the outside factors that bother me, the stupidity of abortion, stupidity of gender identity. Every time I watch the news, you know, I got neighbors that park 5 cars in their yards. It's outside influences that get in my head. I come home and my wife goes, Carl, you're always angry. You've got it made. And I'm a smart enough man to know I do have it made, but I can't seem to let go of these political stupidity that's out there that really affects me. Any suggestions?
Carl. Yeah, that's a legitimate question. I have some thoughts, but Jim, I'd like you to take it away first.
Carl, first of all, congratulations, being married for 30 years. That is a true blessing, my brother, and good for you. I think you said something really important, my friend. You said the outside influences. You see, happiness is all about the outside. It's external. What we're to have as Christians is joy. And that's something internal. The difference is that happiness is fleeting. You can be happy one minute and sad the next. But joyfulness that we're supposed to have, that is a much more internal gratitude that we have. It's deeper. It's not superficial. So I think I would recommend to you, obviously prayer. Prayer really helps, brother. But noticing that these things are outside, right? Your family is doing great. Your marriage is successful and together, and your kids are healthy. Focus on those things and not the external.
Amen. And I would argue, you know what? That's the devil getting in the way of the details. You're doing well. Praise God. Don't let him sully your marriage, your family experience, and make you angry in the midst of such a blessed life to not have, anything negative going on in your personal life. Your anger is what's impacting your personal life, and maybe that's what's hurting your family at times and you don't realize it. So that prayer is important. Turn off sometimes the news. If you need to turn it off, maybe do a half an hour check-in once a week, or only 5 minutes here and there. Do it, but it sounds like you need a little bit of a break from the news for a little while to feel a little stronger. And in that break, I really want to recommend to you, there was a JAMA study, a huge psychological research study showing the people that were the happiest, most resilient to all these emotional highs and lows, anger included. They went to daily mass. Received daily communion. Why is this significant? If you even think about the word joy in Greek and the word grace in Greek have very similar, they're almost interchangeable in some ways in the root of them. And if you look at that word, what does that mean? We need a grace-filled life to be joyful. And so how do you do that? By the grace of God. Go to Mass. Confess your anger to a priest. Talk to him about it. I think that would be very helpful. You're listening to Trending with Timmerie. Carl, thanks for calling, and I'm so happy you called and you've listened to Relevant Radio and Trending for so long. You're listening to Trending with Timmerie. Coming up is a Miracle Moment with Father Rocky, supporting the work we're doing here at Relevant Radio. Jim O'Day, check him out. IntegrityRestored.org is his website.
Changing lives in your neighborhood and across the nation. Here's another Relevant Radio Miracle Moment.
A lot of answered prayers coming in. This person says, look, I sent an email 10 days ago for prayers for a young mom. She had 3 boys. She's on hospice. She's dying from cancer. Her 7-year-old was diagnosed with a neuroblastoma. They went to get a second opinion. We continued to pray. The doctor said that he felt that there was simply, no cancer, just a swelling of the brain, and that it would heal over time. Drew, they said, no cancer. And I just want to say, praise God. And I'll re-echo that. She says, God bless you, Drew, and Maggie for this wonderful ministry. So 10 days ago, powerful prayer. Cancer's not bigger than God. I say it all the time.
This miracle moment was brought to you by you. Make a tax-deductible donation now to support our mission at relevantradio.com or on the Relevant Radio app.
We're going to talk about who the happiest people in the United States are in just a moment, but joining me now is Cale Clark from The Cale Clark Show. We're talking about real clear answers to Catholics who are struggling in the culture. That's what we're giving here today on Trending, and I hope you'll support the work we're doing to help give those Catholic answers when sometimes you have a hard time finding them, Cale.
That's right, and one place you can go all the time is Relevant Radio, and also our website. Lots of great articles there, relevantradio.com, and that's also a place, obviously, where you can give. It's secure, it's easy, it's online, relevantradio.com, the Relevant Radio app, and you can take a look there at all of our Pledge Drive premiums. There are so many of them. And you can also call. If you can't get to the to your computer, you can't get to your smartphone, well, actually, you're going to have a hard time calling if you can't get the smartphone, because I don't think anybody has landlines anymore, but if you do, you can call this number, 877-291-0123. And boy, we have a lot of promises being made during this hour. Timmerie has said, listen, if somebody donates $10,000, and I know I'm putting words in your mouth here, she will reveal her vocal warm-up routine to you. You're not going to want to miss this. This is well worth the money because, first of all, this is going to go to making Christ better known through the media all throughout the world. So we're all about here on Relevant Radio. And now Jim Modea said, hey, you guys are going to do kind of a video together as well, maybe if somebody donates $10,000. And of course, that becomes $20,000 because we have a partnership challenge match for this hour. They have a service that's somewhat like that, Tim, where you can get celebrities to give you a greeting or give your friends a greeting. It's called Cameo. And listen, Cameo is appropriate because this is the only place where you can hear Trending with Timmerie. She makes her cameo, if you will, every day here on Relevant Radio. So if you want to hear more of Timmerie, you want to keep her show going, join Team Timmerie. And I'm messing up my words here. If your name is Tim, you can also join Team Timmerie.
Yeah, that's my dad.
Wow. There you go. And by calling 877-291-0123 or relevantradio.com, the Relevant Radio app. Timmerie.
We're working our way toward our goal of $16,000, and $11,000 is still what we need to get there. So I'm a little scared if someone makes a donation, I'm in trouble here. I'll be singing an African tribal song and making funny noises. My kids enjoy it. I think it helped my daughter to talk sooner because she was so used to me doing all these vocal warm-ups. So if you want to support the work we're doing, 877-291-0123. RelevantRadio.com is the easiest way to give. You can give $15 today. We are so grateful for whatever you can give. And if you can give $10,000, I'm cringing. I'm a little scared of what I'm going to have to do, but we love your support.
Absolutely. We'd like to thank donor in Newark, New Jersey. Just came in at that $20 a month level. It's a recurring donation. It's so helpful if you can do that. 877-291-0123, the Relevant Radio app and the relevantradio.com website. Help us give hope.
You're listening to Trending with Timmerie, where you can discuss what matters most to you. Join the conversation, 888-914-9149.
Who are the happiest people in America? Well, before I walk through this latest Wall Street Journal poll, I'm going to tell you something. It's clear. God's the only person who will make you happy. God gives you the blueprint for your life, and it's the only way you will be happy. And I think that that's what this study shows. The Wall Street Journal shows a study. Over 1,000 adults were surveyed. Large majority said they felt pessimistic about economy, the prospects of the next generation. But here's the deal. 30% said they're at their lowest level of happiness. They're not too happy. Let's change this. A small group of those polled, 1 in 10, describe themselves as not just happy, but very happy. What's different about them? What do they have that we don't necessarily have? Well, we have it, but maybe we're not clinging to it enough. They value community and personal relationships. They tend to believe in God, And they say marriage is very important to them. So let's walk through this just a little bit here, because I think this is pretty significant. The happiest bunch of people in America, number one, say marriage is very important to them. Well, why? Most of these people also believe in God, which means that they have a faith-based, God-centered view of marriage that is between one man and one woman. And what are those vows that we make? In the sacrament of marriage, we say that we enter into this freely. We totally give ourselves, holding nothing back. We promise to be faithful to one another. That requires permanence till death do us part. That means we're also fruitful. We're open to life. These are the vows we take. These are fundamental understandings of what it means to be married as a person of faith, as a Catholic. And I think this is why people who have faith and believe in marriage are happier. 1 out of 10 people say they're very happy today. A lot of people say they aren't happy today. So how do you become happier? Believe in God and have the blueprint for marriage that God wrote inscribed on your heart and live for it. Strive for it. That's why we were talking about marriage earlier today on Trending, that once you hit that rut, once you kind of start to hit that point in your marriage where it's just a daily grind and you're working on those day-to-day tasks, you need to make a change and not just get stuck in a task-oriented marriage, but in a marriage that's full of love and dreaming and a common vision. That's a faith-filled perspective on marriage, and faith is so important. Another thing that was emphasized by this 1 out of 10 small group of Americans who said they're happy is that community and close personal relationships mattered. And what was interesting is that a lot of the people polled were older, and they were looking back on their lives and saying, yeah, being involved in my community, having relationships with my spouse, with my family members, friendships, these were very important. And when I clung to those relationships, I was happiest. Now, this matches with an 80-plus year long study that was done and is still continuing to be done by Harvard. It's a Harvard happiness study done by the Adult Development Program at Harvard, and they've been following a cohort of men and their families since 1938. And what they've seen is that the people that were the happiest were the people who really invested in their relationships and kept those relationships close with their families and their marriages. That's the blueprint for God. God gave us this blueprint for the human person. We are born into a family. We have a mother and father, and even in the midst of the brokenness of the culture, fighting for healthy relationships is so fundamental. Family isn't always easy. Relationships can be hard. We get hurt, and sometimes because we get hurt, we like to close ourselves off, and as C.S. Lewis referred to, we become men without chests. That is, we close our hearts up in a coffin, in a box, in another box. We don't want to get hurt again, so we don't let ourselves love others or allow others to love us. Got to be willing to put some skin in the game, to get our feelings hurt, to sometimes mess up and hurt other people, but say, I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? This is very important for us to do. And finally, again, something really important that came out in this study that matches a lot of the other happiness studies out there. Only 1 in 10 people say that they are very happy today. Why? Well, this group of people tends to say they believe in God, that God is important. Isn't that profound? We know, you know, that's why you're listening right now, that you are not happy with God. You may look to your spouse to make you happy. You may look to your children to make you happy. You may look to your priest to make you happy because he's going to say all the things that make you feel good. No one else will ever make you feel happy. This is why St. Augustine said, paraphrasing him, our souls are restless until they rest in thee, O Lord. That's the perspective shift we need to have. That is only through, in, with, and by God that we will be happy. And that is through following the blueprint he has for the human person, for our lives, for where he has in store for us to live into eternity, and that is in heaven with him. He gave us a church, he gave us sacraments, he gave us the ability to be physically united with him in Holy Communion, to be forgiven and made worthy to receive him in communion. That's reconciliation. Get to confession this week. Start going to Mass daily. That will make a change. There's a JAMA study pointing to the people who are happiest and who are resilient to depression and suicide. Those people went to daily Mass. Start trying to go as often as you can. It's not always easy, I get it. But even just 1-2 extra days a week, you can make it there. What can you sacrifice to make it happen for your happiness? Support Relevant Radio, Trending with Timmerie, Cale Clark. You're here with me. Joseph just gave $11 to support the work we're doing here at Relevant Radio. If you'd like to support us, join Lori, Mark, Jeanette, and Juliet, who have all supported us over the last few minutes here at Relevant Radio. The number is 877-291-0123 if you'd like to give today. And we're making it clear. We're giving you the clear information. God's the only person who will make you happy. Every magazine, every other radio network is going to tell you and sell you something else. We are not selling you anything. We are just telling you what Jesus Christ himself said.
Absolutely, Timmy. That's a really great point. We don't sell anything at Relevant Radio. There's no online shop or anything like that. We could easily do that, but we don't do that. The only thing that we do is ask you to help. We have underwriters and we have donors like you. 877-291-0123. It's listener-supported radio, bringing Christ to the world through the media. And I like what you said, Timmy, just before the break. Got to make it happen for your happiness. And that's the one thing you can do right now to help spread happiness, joy, the joy of Jesus Christ throughout the airwaves. Call 877-291-0123. I like alliteration. I like make it happen for your happiness. I like Trending with Timmerie. And if you want to join Team Timmerie, got to call this number, 877-291-0123, or go to relevantradio.com, the Relevant Radio app. Check out the Pledge Drive premiums. This is only available for today. You only have a few minutes left to get this during this hour of trending. This is the Divine Mercy Blessing Pouch. It's so neat. It's so versatile. It's got a beautiful image of our Lord, the original Divine Mercy image that St. Faustina had commissioned, that Jesus wanted to be painted, to show the world a visual of his mercy. And on the back, there's a nice little quote from Sister Faustina from her diary, the Relevant Radio logo, and it can be used for so many different things. You can put your mantilla in there. If you wear one, a Chapel Veil pouch, it can do that. It can be a cell phone pouch. You can put your holy cards in there. You can hang it on your child's crib, on your doorknob, on your bedpost, your nightstand, just to remind you of God's mercy and protection. But it's only available if you come in at that $20 a month level. And it's only while supplies last. We're running out. 877-291-0123 or the Relevant Radio app, Timmerie.
You have about 3 minutes left to give this hour, where we need about $10,000 more. If you can support us, make that big donation now. Every dollar counts. You can give $15. We're so grateful. Ingtio also goes by Yuk. I think I said it right. We are so thankful that you supported us here at Relevant Radio, giving $365. That's $1 a day. Maybe that's what you can give. Cale, I know we are at a point in the economy where it's a little difficult to give, but for me right now, it's saying, okay, what can I take out so that I can choose what I want to do with my money? And so, maybe it's cutting off Amazon purchases. Maybe it's that you're not driving everywhere that you usually drive this week. Maybe it's cutting back on eating out. What can you do to sacrifice a little, to feel better, to feel proud of yourself, supporting the work we're doing here at Relevant Radio and supporting all of the programs here?
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, it is tough for a lot of people across the United States right now. What makes it a little bit easier is that some people have stepped up to the plate and said, I want to help, and I'm going to match dollar for dollar. Anything that's given during these next few minutes, you can give, and it'll be matched 100%. So there's just so many people who have given this hour. Jeff in Bellevue, Wisconsin, has given $600 online. Thank you, Jeff. That becomes $1,200. We have an anonymous donor in Long Beach, New York, who's come in at that $20 a month level, going to get that Divine Mercy pouch. It's so beautiful. Thank you so much for your donation. That is also an online gift. It's really easy and quick to give online. It's very secure as well. relevantradio.com and the Relevant Radio app. We're so excited about what God's going to do during this week. We've got to get to that $3 million level for the week. I know you can do it. You've always come through in the past. And once again, Timmerie will reveal her. I just can't wait for her to reveal her vocal warm-up routine. If you give $10,000
today,
she said today, right now, in the next couple minutes, she's going to do it.
Rubbing those hands together, you were a little too eager.
Wait.
I learned my producers behind the scenes have actually recorded me doing my vocal warm-ups. They promise they won't do anything with them. I really hope that's the case. You do not have my permission. This is not informed consent. Support us, 1-877-291-0123. Give hope and donate today.